When you bring your lunch in tomorrow, don't forget to double bag it so those roaches won't get in it. So I have a bit of an update in case anyone's interested in us federal employees and where we're at in our return to the office process. Probably maybe a good 60-70% of federal employees have been squeezed into every nook and cranny of federal space and non-federal space that's available to these agencies to have access to. And probably, I don't know the true numbers, but my best guess is that maybe 30 to 40% of us are still out here awaiting our prison sentence. Awaiting our designated office space to be assigned once it becomes available. So for us, for federal employees such as myself, who have been put on extensions until a space becomes available, they decide we don't have no space to put you, so we're going to lay you off. Whatever happens, we're just out here on extension waiting. And that's the case for me and several of my coworkers and friends and family members who are in federal service. So I also have friends and family members and coworkers who have returned to the office, or lack thereof an office, or whatever you want to call it or refer to. And they have been sharing their experiences and stories with me. Some have been good, decent, and that's great. That's what I'm hoping for myself. But I'm always an expect the worst, plan for the worst type of person. So any day my broom closet will probably show up. But some of my friends and families and co-workers have shared some crazy stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, crazy to the point where I'm like questioning, would I quit my job or go work with the roaches and the rats and the bees and the bats and the raccoons and the snakes and the one bathroom, the one unisex bathroom to 25 people and one refrigerator and to be fair, it was to be expected from federal employees that knew we were going to be returning to the office, that they were going to be squeezing us into whenever and whatever space they could. The agencies were pretty transparent and said, look, our goal is to follow the executive order and get you guys back into whatever nooks and crannies we can get you in. So it's not like, we're prima donnas sitting here whining about getting into a broom closet. I would like to have my broom closet. I'm still working at home, and probably by the end of this video, I'll probably get a message that you got to go back to work because you out here posting YouTube videos about the federal agent. Anyway, so, I'm looking forward to my, to whatever they can give. So from my experience, from friends, family, coworkers who are also federal employees, I have heard the digs. So, it's just to be expected not to have the luxuries that we had when some of us who were in the office years ago before we transitioned to being remote employees have. So, all the general stuff that everybody deals with, going back to sharing the refrigerator with people who insist, people who insist on bringing fish and fufu and all that to cook and lighten up the whole office. Mindset's already adjusted, getting back to that, it's whatever. People in your shit, still drinking your stuff, those war games or whatever. But I've had a friend of mine who was literally, I think she says like 22 people in a conference room, a small to medium conference room, no partitions, not necessarily headsets supplied by the agency. So of course they get their own. You sitting elbow to elbow. So here my elbow, and then the next person is right here, and you trying to, and she showed me, showed me the person's chair next. So, trying to, have a conference call, depending on what type of work you do, and trying to service the federal, the customer or whatever, working like this, so there's that. And then we still got COVID going on, whether you believe it's a hoax or not. It's COVID, it's flu, it's whatever. So that, no protections against that. You're pretty much on your own, except if you choose to wear a mask or whatever, but you still got to breathe in the person sitting next to you's breath all day, and whatever. Don't be privacy, depending on what type of work you're doing, is out the window. So, you know, and so you have that. And then you have, maybe a unisex bathroom that all 22 of you have to share, because it's what's available. I mean, you can go outside of the building and go to the gas station or the subway or whatever down the street if you can make it, so there's that lovely option. One refrigerator where everyone's trying to store their stuff, because it's not convenient to necessarily go out. It'd probably take you 30 minutes to get out of the building, into your car, and onto a lunch spot before you get back. So there's just that, I mean, and that was existing before all of this, but now it's just amplified. But yeah, having a share bathroom, that's too much, too many people, too many booties, No, okay? So I really, you gotta, you just gotta, when you run into a federal employee or past a federal employee, just regardless of what your beliefs are, your feeling is about the federal workforce, just take a moment, and just be kind, because there's that. So I've heard coworkers who said, they're dealing with, of course, the excessive maybe mice, I shouldn't say rat. In DC, I don't know what they're dealing with, but other areas, other offices throughout the nation where I have contacts, they're saying mice and roaches. I mean, that's a common thread, between all of the, employees who are going back, because it's people and it's food everywhere. And, mixed in with old antiquated buildings where the cleaning isn't good, the housekeeping, not the housekeepers, but just because these federal buildings are kept in poor conditions. And then you throw in 30 people in one room, bringing their food, bringing their traffic and all that kind of stuff. Roaches just running across the table. Roaches, they don't care.
Damn.
They there to eat. They there to see what's up. What you got in that lunch bag? You know what I'm saying? Because it's been a little thin around here, and y'all just show up with all this food and paper and whatever it is that they eat. And so we want to eat too. So, you just got bold ass roaches, and mice running around. I mean, literally, one of my friends said they literally, and I believe her for her word, said that they are literally shaking their foot because mice are running across their feet, at the bottom. Ain't no damn way. So, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm thinking about, do I really want to keep my federal job, or do I want to be playing footsie with mice all day? Bats, from the old antiquated federal buildings, bats have, made homes and things up in there. So that I've dealt bees. I've heard bees, beehives and wasp nests who have, embedded themselves up in these old buildings, and, staff having to fight off bees and things like that. Raccoons. I've heard of one instance of a raccoon that's gotten in, to a building that they had to chase out. And let's see, one of my coworkers, who I hope is not watching because I'm sharing not her name, but a business, that she went into the bathroom and stepped on a needle of some sort, that she had to, I guess it didn't, I don't know if it pierced her skin or just in the bathroom. I don't know what type of needle it was. I mean, how many needles are in the bathroom? You know what I'm saying? So she had to go and get that checked out and get cleared, and blood work for all of that. I mean, this is crazy. It's crazy. It's nasty and it's crazy. And I really feel for, people who are subjected to this every day. And not just that, you have to consider the 20 and 30 and 40 minutes. Sometimes people drive for hours each way just to go back and forth to work, just to keep their job until they can find something else. This is not a good, it's not a good outcome that's coming. Everybody doesn't have the strength, the fortitude, they don't have the mindset to maintain this type of routine, this type of, you know, every day. Y'all remember that movie? What was it? Movie with Michael Douglas, Running Down or whatever it was? I don't forget what it was. It was a good movie. But yeah, you know, it's not a good situation to have people in. I mean, you know, and then getting to work, finally getting to work, having to fight off livestock, having to fight off your coworkers' breath and body odor, you know. Oh my God, and the smokers. Now, listen, I'm not going to hit on you smokers because, you know, if you smoke, you smoke. That's just you. But y'all know, those of you that smoke, you wear that smoke cologne and perfume. That's what you wear because that's what you do. So, you know, I don't smoke cigarettes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't smoke. And being that I'm in that perimenopause stage, I smell everything. I mean, I smell everything. I smell any little faint scent. So that's going to be a problem for me because, you know, just having to sit and, I mean, or people who wear a lot of perfume or a lot of loud deodorant and things like that. I mean, it's just so many variables of things that, you know, you're dealing with. But primarily, the livestock, the rats, the roaches, the mice, the bats, raccoons. I haven't heard anybody about snakes, but we talking about big Wall Street cockroaches, not these little, it doesn't matter. A roach is roach. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm sure one ain't crawling. Mold is another thing that I've heard. You know, you seeing again old federal antiquated buildings or buildings that have not been kept up well. Mold will kill you. You sitting there inhaling, and you know, feces, you know, from mice and things like that. That's all toxins. You know, if it's sitting over there in the corner and nobody's getting it, and you got mold over here, you know, on the walls, and you're sitting here ingesting and inhaling that, you know, for long periods of time. It's going to be a lot of cases against the federal government, but unfortunately, sadly, I don't know that they'll even matter because our judicial system, you know, let's not even go there, but bed bugs is another thing that another coworker of mine told me that, you know, he saw bed bugs in the workplace and, you know, you know, that's just common for some public places for people to transfer bed bugs, but that's another huge element of the return to office and jamming all these people into these places that aren't being cleaned. They haven't been cleaned, and, you know, throwing a bunch of people together in small places who are passing that along to one another. Having a panic attack. I'm just saying, you know, I'm waiting for my time. I know it's coming one way or another. Something's coming. And, really, I just wanted to share that is with people who are watching this video, that it's a very real thing. And regardless of what your feelings are towards federal employees, just if you can, say a kind word, you know, have a kind thought, think before you run off, you know, with your point of view, you know, and not knowing what someone else is going through. In addition to everything else that's going on out here, you know. Anyway, that's all the update that I have. I will let y'all know when I get my lovely extension or denial or return to office or broom closet or whatever. And it will be that day that something has have to give, because there's no way I'm working in an office with mice running across my feet.